I'm Mosh, and I'm going to be your instructor. In this course, you're going to learn how to build fast and beautiful mobile apps using React Native. I'm assuming in this course you know nothing about React Native and want to learn everything from scratch. I will explain every line of code I write so you learn and understand all the underlying principles. Now, we're not going to work on a dummy to-do app or a calculator. We're going to work on a real, full-fledged app called Done With It. This app is a marketplace for selling the stuff you don't need anymore, anything you're done with. Here's the front screen of our app. We can log in or register. Let's log in with my account. Here you can see all the items that people are selling. For example, we have this guy over here. He's selling his red jacket for $100. Of course, this is all dummy data that I have generated. Now, we can tap an item to see more details about it. We can see who the seller is. We can see where the item is located on the map. We can also send a message to the seller. And this will send a push notification to the target mobile device. Now, we can pull this down to close it. We can also pull down the list to refresh it, just like the apps you use on a daily basis. We can filter the list and look at the cameras that are for sale. We can add a new listing. First, we select an image. We can add a second image, up to 3 images. Now let's give it a title, my first item. We give it a price, $99. Now let's assign it to a category. So let's put it in the category of furniture. Now when I post this to the server, you're going to see a progress bar and a beautiful animation at the end. Take a look. There you go, and done. Here are the listings I have posted. We also have my account page, where we can access my listings and the messages I have received. Now we can swipe an item to the left to delete it, just like the apps you use on a daily basis. So if you follow along, by the end of this course, you're going to master React Native and you'll be able to build mobile apps with confidence. So, are you excited to build this app with me? Then let's jump in and get started. To take this course, you don't need any familiarity with React Native or mobile development in general, but you need to know JavaScript and React because React Native is built on top of React, but instead of targeting the browser, it targets mobile platforms. You don't need to be a React expert, but you need to know all the essential concepts such as components, JSX, props, state, and so on. If you want to learn React, I have a 2-hour tutorial on my YouTube channel, as well as a complete 13-hour course that teaches you everything from the basics to more advanced concepts. I've put the links down below if you're interested. So what is React Native and is it the right tool for you or not? Well, React Native is a framework for building native apps for iOS and Android using JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, you can use your JavaScript skills to build real native apps for iOS and Android. These apps are truly native, so they are not web apps that look like a mobile app. So with React Native, you don't need to know iOS or Android programming unless you want to build a really complex app and you need to talk directly with the native API of these platforms. For the most part, you don't need to do that. So you can write pretty much all of your application code in JavaScript and share it across iOS and Android. That's why a lot of companies these days prefer to build their apps using React Native because they don't need to hire 2 separate teams of developers maintaining 2 different code bases. One for iOS written in Swift or Objective-C, and the other for Android in Java or Kotlin. Now, one of the common misconceptions about React Native is that you cannot use it to build any serious apps. For example, we have this guy over here. His name is John Smith. He's a developer with a lot of strong opinions. He believes that the only way to build anything serious is by using the native languages and tools. Well, that's not true. Here are 5 apps that are built with React Native: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Skype, Uber Eats, and many, many more. So if you have an idea that you want to turn into a real app using your JavaScript skills, React Native is the best tool to have in your toolbox. There are 2 ways to build React Native apps. We can use plain React Native or Expo. Expo is a set of tools and a framework that sits on top of React Native and hides a lot of complexity from us. It makes it incredibly fast and easy to build React Native apps. If you have never done mobile development before, Expo is the way to go. You can build and run your first app within a few minutes. The other option is to use React Native CLI or command line interface. When we create a project with React Native CLI, our project will look like this. So we have these folders, Android and iOS. These are native Android and iOS projects. We also have our JavaScript code on the side that can be shared across these two platforms. So this approach is suitable for people who have some experience with iOS or Android programming. In this course, I'm assuming you don't have any prior experience in mobile development, so we're going to use Expo. When we create a project with Expo, we're not going to have these Android and iOS sub-projects. We only have JavaScript code. So that means we cannot work directly with the native API of these platforms. We are limited to what Expo gives us in terms of the native features. Now, honestly, this is not a problem for a lot of apps because Expo gives us a lot of native features. So we can build a real complete app using just Expo. And that's what I'm going to show you in this course. But if you do have some experience with mobile development and you want to have some extra flexibility, if you want to customize or tweak some native components, you can always eject from Expo and get access to the underlying iOS and Android projects. I will show you how to do that later in this course. So next I'm going to show you how to set up your development environment. All right, the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you're running Node version 12 or higher. So here in the terminal window, let's run node-v. I'm running Node version 12.14.1. Make sure you are running Node version 12 or higher. Now let's install Expo CLI globally. So npm. If you're on a Mac and you haven't configured permissions properly, you have to prefix this with sudo. So npm install -g expo-cli. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to pause the recording.
Bro, क्या हाल है?
All right, Expo CLI is installed. You might get some warnings. Don't worry about them. They don't really matter. So with Expo CLI, we can easily create and run a React Native project. Now, you should also install Expo Client on your phone. This is an app that you should download from the App Store. It's available for both iOS and Android. With this, we can easily run our app on a physical device. Now, as my code editor, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code or VS Code. You can use any code editor that you prefer, but it's easier if you download VS Code and code along with me because throughout the course, I'm going to show you a lot of tips and tricks, a lot of shortcuts to write code fast. You're going to love these tips. So you can download VS Code from code.visualstudio.com. Now here in VS Code, we're going to use a bunch of extensions. These extensions are optional, but they make our job easier. Let me show you. So over here, let's search for React Native. The first extension we're going to use is React Native Tools. This is built by Microsoft. And with this, we can debug our React Native applications inside VS Code. It's very popular. The second extension we're going to use is React Native/React/Redux snippets. This gives us a bunch of code snippets, so we can type a few shortcuts and generate code really fast. I love this extension. I also use Prettier for formatting my code. So let's search for Prettier. There you go. Prettier code formatter made by Espen Petersen. It's a very popular extension. You probably have it yourself. I also use Material Icon Theme. Let's take a look. With this extension installed, we get pretty icons in our project. So the files in our project are going to get icons like these depending on their type. Now let's apply a setting so the moment we save our changes, our code gets reformatted. So on the top, we go to Preferences and then Settings. Search for Format on Save. So make sure to enable this option. So anytime you press Control and S or Command and S, VS Code will use Prettier to format your code. Now that we have set up our development environment, let's create our first Expo project. So here in the terminal window, let's type Expo init, done with it. That's the name of the app we're going to build. You can call it anything you want. So let's go with this. Now we have to choose a workflow for building this app. We can use one of the managed workflows or one of the bare workflows. If we use a managed workflow, Expo is going to take care of all the complexity behind the scene. So with a managed workflow, we're not going to see those iOS and Android projects. We only have a pure JavaScript project. If you use a bare workflow, we're going to have a bare bone React Native project. So we'll have those iOS and Android projects. In this course, I'm going to go with this blank template. We also have a template with TypeScript, but I'm not going to use that in this course because I don't want to bring extra complexity.